Did you know America had 11 concentration camps on U.S. soil? And it was only 80 years ago. Within hours of the Pearl Harbor attack, the FBI already had rounded up almost 1,300 Japanese Americans, arrested them without evidence, and froze their assets. Lobbyists then pressured politicians to take it a step further and remove all people of Japanese descent from the West Coast. Now, usually the government relocating over 100,000 people would raise red flags, but in the 1940s, it didn't. 80 years of illegal immigration led to anti-Japanese sentiment like immigration quotas, land restrictions, and citizenship denials. So just 2 months after Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which forced the removal of all Japanese people from the West Coast. He said it was protection against espionage. And you'd think an order of this magnitude would at least require congressional approval, but no. It was super easy to do. And maybe it made sense to people at the time, kind of like George W. Bush's executive order creating the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11. Terrorist attacks will make people justify almost anything. So the West Coast got divided into military zones where the Japanese could voluntarily go, but hardly anyone complied. The government then issued Proclamation Number 4, which gave Japanese Americans 48 hours notice of the forced evacuation. And violating this order was punishable by up to a $5,000 fine, which is like $100,000 today, and a year in jail. It only took the U.S. Army 6 months to move 122,000 Japanese descendants first into assembly centers and then into fenced, guarded, isolated relocation centers known as internment camps. Nearly 70,000 U.S. citizens were detained with no charges ever filed against them, and they couldn't even appeal the incarceration. Canada, Mexico, Peru, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina also forcibly removed 23,000 Japanese and sent some of them to the U.S. for internment. The Army set up 10 camps in remote areas of western states, plus Arkansas, including Minidoka, right here in Idaho. Minidoka covered over 33,000 acres of federal land, and when people arrived that August, construction wasn't even finished. They had no running water or sewage system, and just for reference, summers here get over 100 degrees. Eventually, the facilities included 3 schools, a library, newspaper, fire stations, music groups, and sports teams. But this was no retreat. Families of 8 or 9 were forced into one-room apartments made from blankets hung by the ceiling. At its peak, Minidoka held 9,400 people, making it Idaho's 8th largest city. In October 1945, Minidoka closed. Detainees of internment camps returned to the West Coast to $1.3 billion in property loss and $2.7 billion in net income loss. So in 1988, the government finally acknowledged this injustice and gave every surviving incarcerated person a whopping $20,000 cash payment. So, does $7,000 a year really compensate for being trapped in a concentration camp?